SLP General Secretary Leo Clark confirmed Thursday that Dr. Kenny Anthony would indeed be stepping down officially before the end of the week.
The political cycle ended on June 6, 2016, and Dr. Kenny Anthony and his party were left out in the cold. The people of the South never experienced the promise of an ultra-modern hospital. And with a new cast of actors being sworn in, the patron saint of lost causes would yet again be kicked around as a political football. Shortly after assuming office, Guy Joseph, the new Minister for Economic Development, and Mary Isaac, Minister for Health, toured the site. What they observed was, according to them, vexing.
I think we have reached the point where the project coordinator, where the consultants working on behalf of the government needs to come and explain to the people of St. Lucia why this project has taken 6 years. Why have we seen so many other buildings being built around the core of the hospital, while the hospital, the buildings that are needed for the operations of the hospital is incomplete after 6 years.
You are on that site on the first visit. Shanta is with you. Is Mandish there as well?
No.
In 2016?
No.
Why isn't Mandish there?
From every bit of information that I have, Mandish was very absent from the project.
How could he have been absent from the project when the government was paying him $49,500 a month to manage the project?
Well, that is a question that I cannot answer. That's a question I can answer from now moving forward. But everything that I saw in my reviews was signed by one named Conrad.
Conrad Emmanuel.
And from my knowledge, based on the documentation that I have seen, I went through a list of the registered engineers on the island. I went through the Engineers Registration Board Act, and I do not see the Conrad as a certified engineer in St. Lucia.
The new minister stopped the project, and in an unprecedented move, Halcro Group's contract was terminated. Shanta King's contract was not renewed, and a technical audit was commissioned to ascertain the true state of the project. When the news came that the construction process will be halted and an audit will be conducted, what were your thoughts?
I actually thought that was a good idea. I thought that was a good, because let's go back to what I said a little bit earlier. In fact, I wish that Dr. Anthony had done that when he had taken over, I think in 2011, because to continue in the same vein would be to continue the same process that puts us in the trouble that we're in. So clearly, one had to create a punctuation mark, a full stop, bam, and let us see where we are and then plan from here sensibly.
Did you agree with the project being stopped and an audit being conducted?
It is clear from reading the report that Minister Guy Joseph has been vindicated in relation to his decision to stop the project and to have that review.
The technical audit conducted by FDL Consult determined that out of the 25 buildings which form the facility, most are only 50% complete, except for the ambulance bay and the morgue. The report also determined that most of the emails on behalf of the government of St. Lucia, through the project manager, circumvented the government email server and were instead transmitted from the private email of Shanta King. Retrieval of these emails to validate transactions was therefore impossible. Untold Stories telephoned Shanta King, who is now employed with the Caribbean Development Bank. She was uncooperative, she refused an off-camera interview, and also refused to provide any clarification on anything related to this project. It should be noted that Shanta King also refused to cooperate with the project auditors FDL Consult as it relates to providing information on her role in the management of this project. We tried contacting Mandish Singh on more than 20 occasions. He never answered or returned any of our calls. So, we waited as he showed up for work.
My name is Dale Elliott from Untold Stories. Would like to ask you a couple questions. Number one, Mr. Singh, why weren't there approved plans for the construction of this hospital? Why didn't your firm ensure that these plans were approved, Mr. Singh? Mr. Singh, why won't you answer our questions? Why did you order millions of dollars worth of equipment for this hospital and now they're useless?
We also sought clarification from Conrad Emmanuel on his professional qualifications and remuneration on this project. My name is Dale Elliott. I'm trying to reach you about the St. Jude reconstruction project. The question is, Mr. Emmanuel, were you a registered engineer at the time you were participating in that project? Were you working for Palcro at the time? What was your role and responsibility? Why won't you answer our questions? Shortly after airing part 1 of this documentary, Untold Stories was served with threats of legal action by solicitors acting on behalf of Mandish Singh and Conrad Emmanuel. The legal correspondents claim that a confidentiality clause in the contracts of Mr. Singh and Mr. Emmanuel precludes them from speaking about the project. We contacted the former permanent secretaries of the Ministry of Economic Development. All except Ms. Tracy Polius declined an off-camera interview. We contacted Obi Sadhu, the second main contractor on this project, who was very cooperative. However, he refused an on-camera interview. The technical audit, which cost taxpayers $980,000, was a catalogue of a series of catastrophic engineering, financial, and project management failures.
The technical audit was where our troubles began, because then we realized we do not have DCA approvals. The building is not drawn to it's not built to specifications of a hospital. When I spoke to the plumbers, they told me if you see a sketch that shows that the pipe is running in the right wall, most likely it's in the left wall.
What else did the audit discover?
Audit discovered that every single contract that was issued under this project was by direct award. Over 21 direct awards given under the project. The selection and the pre-selection of contractors, we could not understand. The changing of the scope of works of the hospital, there were so many changes that it was nothing like what was started under the United Workers' Party government, where a project that should have been under $50 million was now finally priced at $176 million.
We have in St. Lucia a travesty of procurement guidelines called direct award that has been used, it was introduced, from my recollection, by Dr. Kenny Anthony, primarily at the time as a response for emergencies, and has become over the last 15 years the most abused system of procurement within this country. Every government, the SLP government, the UWP government, have pursued direct award as the modus operandi to dealing with the execution of contracts. In fact, ironically, there is a report done, I believe it's by the UN, that looked at procurement. And in the report, it said that 86% of the major contracts in St. Lucia were given by direct award. That is how bad it has come.
The audit also revealed that Conrad Emmanuel, seen here on multiple tours with government officials, who was acting as a site engineer, neither possessed the academic qualifications of an engineer nor the requisite construction supervisory experience. Yet, his salary was increased by 83% during the lifespan of the project, with no increase in his responsibilities or qualifications, from $9,000 monthly to $16,500. His boss, Mandish Singh's salary, increased by 23%, from $38,000 a month to a whopping $49,500 monthly. There were no records to indicate that payments were based on performance matrices. On the contrary, it appeared that payments were made purely on submission of time inputs. Therefore, invoices were honored based on unsubstantiated time inputs. Halco's monthly reimbursable rates also increased by 560% over the duration of the project. With such loose arrangements, the audit report said, it would not be a stretch of the imagination that it was in Mandish Singh's interest to enable the situation in order to extend his services for as long as possible. The audit report also uncovered the unorthodox use of contingency fees of astronomical amounts. This, it said, was highly irregular, as it is the norm for a contingency sum to be retired against a specific activity or inputs, but not paid out as a sum. The audit is littered with hundreds of thousands in payments disguised as contingency payments. A payment review discovered that Halco paid its staff a total of $166,402.61 for the same services already paid for by the government of St. Lucia under the same agreement. This constitutes not only a double payment, but an unethical practice. As a result of this dubious practice, the government of St. Lucia, through Mandish Singh, ordered millions of dollars of specialized equipment, building material, and hospital supplies, and in many cases, paying exorbitant rates as these shipments were expedited years before they were actually needed. It is reported that millions of dollars of specialized hospital equipment have been rendered useless because of the time frame and manner in which they were stored. You were also involved in what the press called Operation Restore Container. You were on television, going to various places, knocking on doors, looking for government property. What was that all about?
When we went through the audit report, the amount of things we found out that had been purchased under the name of St. Jude Hospital project that could not be found anywhere. These were purchased and imported into the island duty-free. In fact, very early in the game, when I came in, I was handed a bill that we have a container sitting on port in the port castries, 2 containers, 2 40-foot containers, that had accumulated demurrage charges or rental charges, not for it overstaying, just for the use of the container, of about $166,000. 2 40-foot containers. We could have built a whole warehouse with that money and stored our things. At least we would have had a warehouse. So immediately I started to see how could we have allowed all of that to happen. Then I understood there was another set of equipment at Grand Riviere, and there was another set at Marisil, and there was another set at Bizet. All during that time, there is a huge warehouse built as part of the St. Jude project, completed, secured, empty.
One of the most damning condemnations of the execution of this project is highlighted by FDL Consult on page 161 of the audit report. It states, the review of the site planning and audit of each building or structure on the site revealed inefficiencies, exclusions, code violations, and design contradictions that could very well lead to this renovated facility falling victim to the devastation by fire that rendered it unusable initially.
I believe right now I am telling the public the truth, that here was negligent because of lack of proper management. Here went down because of politics.
So during the process when you worked on this, was there ever a time when some of the things that you saw happening, you called into question and you called the project manager or the project consultant and say, listen, you all are getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. I am not comfortable working with them?
That is a very good question to ask. Yes, but when I called the project manager, which was Santa King at the time, so many times enough that when I questioned her why you are not taking my calls, she will tell me, do not ask her that question again because she's not working for me. She's not one of my staff. How can I bring up my dissatisfaction to anything to her when she is not taking my calls? You can only talk to people when you have contact with them.
I find it interesting that the morgue and the ambulance bay have both been constructed and also completed to specification and on time. Who were the contractors on that project and how was it handled differently compared to standard St. Jude?
Well, the management was different.
Why did you agree to this interview?
For the truth to come out, the misled of what took place is not what that was published or been said. So I find it is honest to the public that they know exactly what was going on and what took place and why.
When we return, we examine what it would take to complete and commission St. Jude Hospital.